A woman does not leave a lasting memory by simply sharing a man's bed. She leaves a lasting memory by becoming unforgettable in his presence. My friends, many people have sold you a story that sounds exciting, but has very little truth behind it. They told you the way to keep a man is to move your body the perfect way, say the perfect words, and hope he never turns his attention somewhere else. But let's make one thing clear from the very beginning. What makes a man remember you forever has very little to do with how you act during intimacy and everything to do with what you awaken inside his deeper mind while he feels emotionally open. Before we go any further, pause for a moment. If you're here listening, thinking, or even healing through these words, take a second to like this video and subscribe. This is not just another video. Every sentence comes from a place of honesty because I believe relationships should help you grow, not leave you emotionally drained. And if you believe that too, if you're tired of empty advice that never changes anything, your support truly means a lot. Now imagine this, you're sharing a deeply personal moment together. You're close, your breathing slows, and his body is with you. Yet part of his mind is still racing. He's wondering if he's enough. He's wondering what you're feeling. He's wondering whether this moment will really matter after it ends. He is physically close, yet emotionally searching. Then instead of trying to impress him, you quietly speak words that reach beyond the surface. Something calm. Something sincere, something that touches the hidden part of him he rarely shows anyone. Suddenly, his attention shifts. His body may still be moving, but now his heart is listening. Stay with me, because what comes next changes everything. Most people completely miss this, and once you understand it, you'll never look at connection the same way again. True intimacy is not the highest point of connection. It is the doorway that opens something much deeper, and the words spoken inside that space often decide whether someone simply remembers a pleasant experience or carries that emotional feeling long after the moment is over. The truth is simple. Almost everyone has experienced relationships they eventually forgot, but they rarely forget the person who made them feel deeply understood while they were emotionally open. Not because of appearance, not because of performance, but because of presence. There is an old idea that says when we fail to understand what lies beneath the surface of our minds, it quietly shapes our lives without us realizing it. During moments of real closeness, people naturally lower the emotional walls they carry every day. That is when kindness, honesty, and emotional safety leave the strongest impression. This is never about controlling someone. It is never about playing emotional games. It is about bringing light into places that usually remain hidden. It is about understanding your own value as someone who offers not only affection, but genuine emotional presence. Stop believing that intimacy alone creates lasting love. Stop believing your worth depends on keeping someone's attention. You are not a reward waiting at the finish line. You are the beginning of a completely different experience. Every word you choose inside meaningful moments should reflect that truth. If these words connect with you, write this in the comments. I honor my value. I inspire growth. I remember who I am. Don't overthink it. Let those words become a promise to yourself and stay until the end, because what you're about to hear may completely change how you understand emotional connection forever. Imagine another moment. Everything grows quiet. The room feels peaceful. You're both fully present. Anticipation fills the silence, yet instead of rushing, you slow everything down. Right before taking another step together, you look into his eyes and calmly say, I don't only invite you close, I invite you to truly see who I am. Those words are not about seduction. They are about self-respect. Anyone can open a door. It takes real confidence to open your heart with awareness. Your presence is never something that should be treated like a transaction or used to convince someone to stay. Your presence is the space where trust either grows or disappears. For years, people have been taught that the most powerful part of intimacy is physical closeness itself. But the real power begins with conscious choice. It begins when two people willingly meet each other with honesty, respect, and emotional openness. That choice changes everything. You may wonder if this sounds too deep or whether someone else will even understand it. But this isn't about whether another person understands immediately. It's about becoming someone who refuses to abandon themselves for approval. Maybe there were times when you gave your attention to people who never valued it. That doesn't define who you are today. Growth always allows a new beginning. Every time you choose authenticity instead of performance, you rebuild your confidence one decision at a time. Think about it this way: your actions may open the door, but your energy fills the entire room. Long after conversations end and people walk away, they often remember how someone made them feel. And that feeling stays far longer than appearances ever could. So remember this whenever you're sharing an important moment with someone. You never have to perform to deserve love. Your calm presence already speaks louder than anything you could try to prove. Say it with quiet confidence. I don't only invite you close, I invite you to truly know me. Watch how the entire atmosphere begins to change, not because you changed who you are, but because you finally allowed your real self to be seen. And what comes next is where the deepest lesson begins, because this next insight explains why genuine connection always outlasts temporary attraction. A man can pretend through messages. He can say all the right things while sitting across from you at dinner. But in moments of true closeness, his energy becomes much harder to hide. His deeper nature begins to speak without words. And if you are fully present, calm, and connected to yourself, you'll notice it. You'll begin to recognize who he truly is when the mask slips away and the need to impress disappears. This is not about criticizing anyone. It's about understanding people with wisdom instead of fantasy. It's about becoming a woman who no longer performs to receive love, but instead notices what is real and responds with confidence. Because when you speak to the deeper part of someone that even they may not fully understand, something meaningful happens. You quietly invite authenticity into the room. You silently ask, "Show me the person beneath the appearance." And you do it with kindness, strength, and emotional depth. Let those words settle naturally into the moment. Allow the silence to hold them. The way you show up with me tells me who you are. That is not simply a romantic sentence. It is an invitation to honesty. It comes from someone who is not there to be chosen at any cost. She is there to witness, to understand, to connect, and above all, to decide what truly deserves her energy. So remember this: when real closeness begins, pretending slowly fades away. What remains is character. And if you stay awake in that moment, not only with your eyes, but with your heart, you will clearly recognize who is standing beside you and whether they deserve the space you have carefully protected. Stay with me, because the next realization is where everything starts making sense. Now picture another quiet moment. You're both completely present. The outside world has disappeared and nothing feels rushed. His attention is no longer divided. He is fully engaged, calm, intentional, and emotionally available. There is a steadiness about him that feels different from anything you've experienced before. And while that openness fills the room, you softly lean closer and say, "When I'm with you, I feel calm. I feel like I can truly be myself." He may not answer immediately. He may simply pause for a moment. Yet those words often reach far deeper than compliments ever could, because they acknowledge something beyond appearance. They recognize character. This is where many people miss the opportunity to create genuine emotional connection. Not through excitement or constant praise, but through sincere words that recognize qualities like responsibility, kindness, emotional maturity, and quiet strength. Real connection grows when people feel appreciated for who they are rather than what they can provide. Meaningful closeness is never only about attraction. It becomes a place where trust is built and where both people feel encouraged to become better versions of themselves. When someone feels respected instead of judged, they naturally become more open, more caring, and more authentic. That is why calm honesty carries so much power. It creates emotional safety. Speak with sincerity instead of strategy. Speak with warmth instead of pressure. Let your words reflect what you genuinely experience. When I'm with you, I feel calm. I feel like I belong in this moment. Those simple words can leave a lasting impression because they speak to the heart instead of the ego. And often, that kind of connection stays with someone much longer than excitement ever could. Then imagine the room becoming completely still. The conversation fades. Neither of you feels the need to fill every second with words. There is comfort inside the silence itself. Many people rush through meaningful moments, afraid that quiet somehow weakens the connection. But the opposite is often true. Silence gives emotions room to breathe. You don't hurry to say the next thing. You allow the moment to unfold naturally before speaking in a calm, steady voice. What stays with me isn't only this moment, it's the way your presence makes me feel. He may pause without fully understanding why those words affected him so deeply. Yet they do, because you shifted the focus away from appearance and towards something lasting. We live in a world that constantly encourages speed, fast conversations, fast emotions, fast relationships. Somewhere along the way, people forgot that the strongest moments are often the quietest ones. Presence always speaks louder than performance. There is a simple truth worth remembering. The slower the words, the deeper they often settle into the heart. When you slow down, when you allow silence between your sentences, people begin listening differently. They stop reacting automatically and start feeling what is actually being shared. Real connection is rarely created by saying more. It is created by saying what truly matters with honesty, calmness, and intention. That is what people remember long after the conversation ends. And what comes next may surprise you, because the deepest bonds are almost never built through perfect words. They are built through genuine presence that cannot be imitated. Let me put it simply. A man can hide behind polite conversations. He can smile, compliment you, and say everything you want to hear. But during moments of true closeness, emotions become much harder to disguise. That's when genuine character quietly appears. If you remain calm, aware, and deeply connected to yourself, you'll notice the difference. This isn't about judging another person. It's about recognizing what is real instead of what is performed. It's about becoming someone who values honesty more than appearances. Instead of reacting to every little moment, you stay grounded. Instead of chasing reassurance, you observe with wisdom. Your presence alone begins inviting authenticity. Speak with softness, not because you're afraid to be heard, but because calm voices often reach places loud ones never can. Think of your words like the slow fragrance of incense. They don't need to fill every corner all at once. They gently remain in the air long after they've been spoken. When you quietly say, "What stays with me most is the way your presence makes me feel," you're offering something much deeper than a compliment. You're recognizing character instead of performance. You're honoring the connection instead of the moment alone. Don't rush to fill every silence. Let quietness become part of the conversation. Then let your words arrive naturally, carrying meaning instead of urgency. When people feel that your words come from genuine experience instead of habit, they remember them. Not because they were dramatic, but because they felt sincere. Stay with me, because the next insight is where emotional connection begins, reaching an even deeper level. Now imagine another moment of quiet closeness. Everything feels peaceful. He's doing his best to be fully present. Yet beneath that confidence, you notice something familiar. A small hesitation. A brief search for reassurance. Maybe it's visible only for a second in his expression or in the way he quietly waits for your response. Without making him feel exposed, you gently reassure him. You look into his eyes and calmly say, "You don't have to prove yourself to me. Who you are already matters." Those words often land more deeply than people realize, because almost everyone carries quiet doubts they rarely speak about. Many people spend years believing they must constantly earn love, approval, or acceptance. Those fears don't always disappear simply because someone appears confident. Sometimes the strongest people carry the quietest questions inside themselves. themselves. Instead of pointing out those fears, you create space where they no longer need to hide. You offer understanding instead of pressure. You offer acceptance instead of expectation. There is an old idea that people often spend their lives avoiding the parts of themselves they fear most. But genuine connection doesn't force those hidden places into the light. It gently creates enough safety that they no longer need to stay hidden. That is where trust begins growing. When someone feels accepted without constantly having to perform, they finally relax into who they truly are. Speak those words naturally. Let them settle without demanding a response. You don't have to prove yourself. Who you are already matters. Sometimes the simplest reassurance becomes the sentence another person remembers for years because it gave them permission to stop pretending. Picture one final moment. The conversation has faded. The outside world feels far away, and you're both simply sharing the present without distraction. Many people would fill the silence with automatic compliments or familiar phrases, but you choose something different. You choose honesty. You quietly say, "Moments like this remind me of the kind of person you truly are." Those words shift the focus away from appearances and toward identity. They remind someone that they are valued for their character, not simply for creating an enjoyable moment. That kind of recognition stays with people because it reaches beyond the surface. Too often, relationships become collections of reactions instead of opportunities for reflection. People praise actions but rarely acknowledge the qualities that created those actions in the first place. Yet lasting connection grows when someone feels genuinely seen. Stop trying to create unforgettable moments through excitement alone. Create them through presence. Stop worrying about saying the perfect thing every second. Instead, choose words that reflect truth. Real transformation often begins when people finally feel understood without needing to explain themselves. When someone feels recognized at that level, something quietly changes inside them. They leave not only remembering the experience, but remembering how they felt about themselves while they were with you. And that is often the kind of connection that remains long after the moment itself has passed. And do you know what that creates? Not only attraction, not only excitement, it creates meaning. And meaning is what people remember long after a single moment has passed. So choose words that most people never think to say. Speak from sincerity instead of habit. Instead of repeating what sounds impressive, express what genuinely lives in your heart. This moment reminds me of who you truly are. Simple words, yet they carry surprising depth when they come from a place of honesty. Let them settle quietly. Let them be felt instead of rushed. Because people rarely remember every detail of a conversation, but they almost always remember how someone made them feel about themselves. A person who brings truth into moments of closeness leaves a different kind of memory. They are remembered not because they tried to impress, but because they created space where authenticity could exist. Stay with me, because one of the most overlooked moments in every relationship is about to reveal its greatest lesson. Now picture the quiet that follows after an emotional experience together. The room feels peaceful. The conversation has slowed. Neither of you is trying to prove anything anymore. Everything has softened into simple presence. This is often the moment many people overlook. Some become distracted, others immediately change the subject or create unnecessary distance. But you recognize something important. Sometimes the deepest conversations happen after the excitement has faded. You gently look at him and sincerely say, "Being with you brought out a part of me I hadn't noticed before." There's no need to dramatize it, no need to force emotion, just quiet honesty. Those words often stay with someone because they acknowledge growth instead of performance. They remind another person that their presence had meaning beyond the moment itself. Experiences naturally fade with time, but emotional discoveries have a way of remaining. There is a timeless idea that whenever two people truly meet with openness, both are changed in some way. Real connection is never one-sided. It leaves both people seeing themselves a little differently than before. That is why conversations after meaningful moments matter so much. They become the story people carry with them long after everything else becomes a memory. Don't rush to fill the silence with small talk. Let the quiet breathe. Then offer one honest sentence that reflects what you genuinely experienced. Being with you brought out a part of me I hadn't noticed before. After that, allow the silence to return naturally. Sometimes silence completes a meaningful sentence better than another 100 words ever could. Now imagine the evening slowly coming to an end. The room is calm. Laughter has settled into comfortable quietness. Maybe you're sitting together without saying much at all. You recognize something many people never realize. The ending of an experience often shapes the memory just as much as the beginning. Before the night finishes, you gently say, "I appreciate this moment, and no matter what comes next, I'm grateful we shared it." Those words carry freedom instead of pressure. They communicate appreciation without creating expectation. Healthy connection never grows from fear of losing someone. It grows from two people choosing to be present without trying to possess each other. Confidence is not about holding tighter. Confidence is about remaining whole while allowing others the freedom to choose. There is real strength in appreciating someone without making your peace depend on their decisions. When people feel accepted instead of controlled, they often remember that feeling for years. It stands apart from so many relationships built on anxiety or constant reassurance. Let your presence communicate calm confidence. Let your words reflect emotional maturity. I appreciate this moment and I'm grateful we shared it. Then let the evening end naturally. When you stop trying to force unforgettable moments, they often become unforgettable on their own. That's the deeper lesson behind every meaningful connection. When you replace performance with presence, people remember not only what happened, but who they became while they were with you. If these words encouraged you to see relationships differently, stay with this journey, keep growing, and remember this simple truth. Move with intention, speak with sincerity, and let your actions always reflect the peace you've already found within yourself.